Now let's get into the consumer experience overview. In order to start off talking about the consumer experience, we first have to know what the consumer experience is. Now, Forrester Research, which is an organization, a highly reputable organization, at least here in the United States. I can't speak for them internationally. I do believe that they do have a strong international brand. They do have a summarized definition for the consumer experience, and that is how customers perceive their interactions with your company. Now, here at Baca Strategies, what we've done is we've taken that definition and we've kind of looked at it and said, well, from what we've been doing with organizations and just reflecting upon the consumer experience, we just wanted to provide a little bit more of a detailed definition because although Forrester has a great definition and they are an outstanding organization, we feel as though our definition provides a little bit of more specificity, and we'll talk about the why in a minute. And our definition is the emotional and rational responses evoked by consumers and prospective consumers during the various phases of the product or service acquisition process. Now, again, like I've said, Baca's refined definition of customer experience is important for two perspectives, or should I say from two perspectives. The first perspective being the textual language of prospective consumers more accurately expands the scope of the consumer experience as every customer and even repeat customers is a prospective consumer of your product or service. And based on several factors, they may or may not continue to consume your goods. The second perspective being the text or language of various phases, which provides the needed segmentation to the customer experience process. Pinpointing the areas of the product acquisition process allows for accurate measuring of consumer experience advantages and drawbacks. And ultimately, both consumers and prospective consumers can still have perceived interactions with your organization that elicit emotional or rational consumer responses, which could lead to public praises or criticisms of your organization. And this can be done, as you may well know, through social media platforms or word of mouth. And so when talking about a product or brand, consumers normally verify to others whether or not they purchased a good or service. Thus, the importance of the term perspective and why they chose to do so, which typically addresses the various phases responsible for the review. So as an example, a person may say, I bought or I didn't buy, which would address whether a person is a consumer or prospective consumer. And then they're going to follow that up because either their checkout process was very efficient or inefficient, or the product or service was very good or very bad, or the brand is just cool. And, we just had to experience the brand. And so this would address the phase that was the procuring cause of the rating. So again, just to kind of retouch back on our definition, a prospective consumer has just as much of a consumer experience as a consumer. I mean, how many times have you gone to a website, and it can be in a virtual environment. So you've gone out to a website and you felt as though you couldn't navigate the site because you felt as though the site was very convoluted. You could not navigate it. It wasn't intuitive. You just got frustrated trying to work on the site or trying to accomplish whatever it is task it is that you were trying to get accomplished. Or maybe you did purchase something on the site and just the supply chain or the process behind the scenes, it took a while to get a confirmation that your sale went through. It took a while for the product to arrive. Those things can happen. Or maybe the experience was outstanding. The website was very intuitive. It was very streamlined, so you knew how to navigate it. Those things play into part of the consumer experience. But the prospective consumer has just as much right to review your product as a consumer. So that's why we feel as though that word prospective consumer is important. And then also, again, as we've said before, the various phases is important because why didn't they buy or why did they buy? I bought because the brand is just so cool that the other stuff didn't matter. The clerk had poor manners, but the brand was just so cool. I really didn't pay attention to that, or I'm willing to suffer through the poor customer service, not consumer experience, but I'm willing to suffer through the customer service or the poor customer service because the product is so cool. Or, their checkout line or their process to purchase the product, it's really crazy, and I just didn't want to deal with that. And this is why we are approaching the consumer experience from a segmentation process, so you can see how these impact the overall consumer experience. And I just want to end this section right here, or at least this overview, talking about, the definition of consumer experience with this Maya Angelou quote, because I think even though we've given our definition from Baca Strategy's perspective, and Forrester Research has their definition, which we've displayed here, or at least we've displayed a chunk of it. Maya Angelou has a quote that pretty much sums up the consumer experience. And that quote is, "I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." And that is where we were going with our definition when we talked about the emotional and rational responses. When you, as a consumer, or when your consumers go through the transaction and they purchase your good or they retain your services, when that service is done and that process, that consumer experience is over, how did they walk away feeling? Did they walk away feeling good that, they got a discount, that your services were well worth it? Did they walk away saying, I got beat and, I felt as though my money was wasted? Because these are all going to elicit some type of feeling from that consumer, whether they got beat, whether they got a great deal, it's going to elicit some rational response like, yeah, they're going to cerebrally think it through before they rate your organization. They're not going to go from an emotional or visceral place when they give their review. They're going to be more cerebral about it. They're going to think it through. So this is why it's important. And like I said, Maya Angelou's quote sums it up very well. Now, when we're looking at also too this consumer experience, let's just talk about why it's important as we continue to go through this section and get ready to close it out. Consumer experience is important because it affects the bottom line of the organization. And we're mostly talking about from a financial perspective. If you have a good consumer experience, you can therefore either retain your customers or get repeat customers. That's pretty much, it sums up all of the other bullets that are going to come behind this, because once you have a good consumer experience, it can help with your bottom line. All other things being equal, you have a great supply chain, you have a great business process that's running internally. If you also have that good consumer experience, you can increase your bottom line. Consumer experience plays an important role in the growth of the organization. That's the second important point. It impacts brand loyalty. Again, that customer retention. You have a good customer or consumer experience, it's more likely that they're going to be repeat customers of your business. And it can also help with low cost or no cost marketing of your organization and your organization's products. Because you have a good customer experience, guess what? That customer potentially could go online and give you good ratings. And now you've received free advertising of your business. Or if they're talking with individuals that they know that's in their circle and they're having those face-to-face engagements, you could get an endorsement from an individual who's also sending business your way. And that's why the consumer experience is important. It also possibly makes the business immune to changes in price or perception. And what I mean by this is, if you've got a great consumer experience, sometimes people are willing to pay for that. And yeah, of course, there's going to be a threshold of how much they're willing to pay. But if you look at an organization such as, let's just take Disney, for example, people go to Disney World, and a ticket to get into Disney World can be far more than it is for other amusement parks that are throughout at least North America. And speaking from the United States perspective, but there are many other amusement parks, but Disney charges what they charge, and it is not cheap because they offer an experience that, for the most part, is targeted towards your kids, but it's also targeted towards the parents as well. And they have those experiences, and people are willing to pay for that. So that's why we say that the consumer experience is important, because it can help your business be immune to price changes. Look at products from Apple. Apple's products are expensive. Anybody can buy. There are thousands or hundreds of other cell phones on the market, but Apple has a cult following because, again, they've created some part of their consumer experience, whether it's the product itself or whether it is the brand's perception, but something within their consumer experience pipeline has created a price immunity for their organization. And then finally, for maybe those businesses, particularly you're talking about the upstart businesses that are looking to attract investors, or maybe corporations for mergers and acquisitions, having a good consumer experience helps that as well. Because if you have a good consumer experience, you are more likely to be able to not only attract investors or corporations for mergers and acquisitions, but then you can also command the price point that you want to command. Now, before we exit this section, I just want to have a little quick exercise. What we're going to do here is I've listed 10 scenarios, and I want you to look through these 10 scenarios and identify the ones that impact the consumer experience, whether that's buying a product or service. In the scenarios, the customer experience, it could be in a face-to-face setting, or it could be virtual online. So the 10 scenarios are this. The shopping mall where your storefront is located added a new high-end grocery store and 2 upscale boutiques. Second scenario is a customer asks a question online or in person. It could be either way. And they're asking the question about a product they purchased. The third scenario would be you switched your website from one vendor server to another vendor. Scenario 4 is your small restaurant doesn't require a dress code or uniform. The fifth scenario would be other customers, plain and simple. They're either repeat or first-time customers, but other customers. Can your other customers impact your consumer experience process for other customers? Number 6 would be a developer builds a new residential development behind your existing location. Number 7 would be a comparable business to yours based in another state, but only provides online shopping. Number 8 would be your business adds new products to sell. Number 9 is you decide to offer local delivery service to your business model. And number 10 is your small restaurant business has a policy of cash or checks only. So what you may want to do is just pause and look this over, because I'm going to get ready to give the answer to which ones are correct and which ones do impact the consumer experience and which ones don't. And I'm going to give that answer right now. The answer is all of these scenarios impact the customer experience. Every last one of these scenarios impact your consumer experience. Now, for those asking the question why, let's run through each of these. The consumer experience, again, remember, it's about how your consumers emotionally or rationally perceive or feel about the engagement process that they had with your organization. That's essentially what it is. So if a shopping mall Where your storefront is located, added a new high-end grocery store and 2 upscale boutiques. That does impact your business. It subtly impacts, and you may say why. Well, when we start going through the consumer experience components, you're going to see that there's a thing we call perception. And sometimes if you stick your business and you have other high-end businesses around you that are looking good, even if it's a complementary business, well, the business doesn't even have to be complementary, but if you can get your business in a location and your business fits in with that model, because also you have to fit in too. But if your business fits in with those other storefronts and your store looks just as good as those, and they're adding a high-end boutique over here and a high-end grocery store here, it gives the perception from a customer coming to your store. Already you're kind of hitting that perception model that, hey, this business is trustworthy. Look at the environment that they're in. People do have those biases. It could also negatively affect it, depending upon some people. Some people may be like, oh, this place is too bougie. This shopping, this upscale, this costs so much money. It could negatively or positively impact it. Remember, all people are different, but it does impact your business, because if you can get a person to walk in your business with their guard down, not having a negative perception about you, at least from the gate, then you can kind of manipulate at least that perception and also your consumer experience. And that's what a lot of businesses do with marketing. That's what marketing is about, to manipulate your perceptions so that you can come in emotionally unguarded and at least receptive to what they're doing. Let's look at the second one. A customer asks a question online about a product they purchase. We know that definitely impacts your consumer experience. It all depends upon how fast you can answer that question, or it also maybe depend upon too, do you have the technological resources to support asking questions online? How difficult is it for this person to ask questions online? What's the turnaround time? So these type of things you have to think about as a business. Also too, you probably need to understand, what are the expectations for people when they're dealing with things online? Because a lot of times when people are dealing with things online, they're thinking about things that are instantaneous. And if they have to send something to an inbox and it's just going to an email, and then you respond whenever you get back, that may not be acceptable for an individual, especially depending upon what it is that you're selling. So if you look at number 3, you switch your website from one vendor server to another vendor. That definitely impacts your consumer experience, because that other vendor, hopefully the service level agreements are there, or hopefully you vetted that the vendor that you're now switching to, but they need to have high performing servers. Will your customers get the same speed, get the same support? What is the uptime of your website? Those things are important for the consumer experience. Number 4, your small restaurant doesn't require a dress code or uniform. Again, that can also impact perception. It can impact to say, well, hey, there's no dress code. You go to some department stores. I know when I go to some of the high-end department stores, specifically in the cosmetics section, they're all in black. They may not wear a uniform, but there is some uniformity in how they're dressed. They're all in black. They're all in either business casual or dress. They're dressed in a suit and tie or appropriate attire. But there is some type of dress code there, and you can see that. But if you have an organization that, doesn't have that type of dress code, depending upon the type of business that you're running, that may or may not be acceptable or not. And again, this is playing into perception about an organization. People may tend to think that, does this person actually really work here? Especially if they're taking their money and, scanning their card. People want to know that they're in a professional environment. Number 5, other customers. Can your other customers impact the customer experience of other customers? And they definitely can. I can name several times when I've gone to a place I went to a restaurant one time and an argument broke out between two different parties in a nice restaurant. And that's no fault of the organization, but I'm just providing one scenario. If you have customers and you have customers that are rowdy, or customers that or a customer or even a potential customer that's in your place of business, and they're making other people feel uncomfortable or ruining their experience, those people are going to remember that. Now, I'm not trying to say that they won't come back, but I'm just trying to say for that one experience, one experience was ruined for that one customer, and they may go online and let the world know, or they may talk to their friends and let people know. A developer building a new residential development behind your existing location. Again, it does impact your business. What type of development is this? Because you have to, is this development fitting or complementing your business? If your business is in, let's just say you have an upscale business and then they're building some high rises that, they're going to probably put people in there that you don't know these people. You don't know what type of environment these people come from. So you don't know how this development is going to impact the community. No one knows when a development occurs, how it's going to impact the community until it goes live and it's in operations for a while. But it definitely impacts it. It impacts also if you look at the infrastructure. And I'm talking about the transportation infrastructure. Where your business is located, is this going to add far more traffic and make it a lot more difficult for people to get to and from your business? These are things that you have to think about. Number 7, if you're talking about a comparable business to yours based in another state, but they only provide online shopping. Well, yes, it does impact your business, because if it's a comparable business, that's just kind of like if you ever gotten into maybe if you ever test driven one type of car, and you've test driven this one car, and this car may be fantastic. It may have all of the bells and whistles that you're looking for in a car, and it's in the same price point, but for whatever reason, you can't get this car. And then you go over to this other dealer and they have a similar product or service, and they're selling it at the same price, and you're not getting at least nearly half of the bells and whistles. When people start to have something to compare stuff to, that's when your organization can take a hit. Potentially, your organization can take a hit, because once you start getting into comparables, and I can start comparing LeBron James with other great basketball players, Magic Johnson, and so forth. When you start having comparables to work with, that definitely impacts your consumer experience. Your business adds new products to sell. This definitely impacts your consumer experience, because number 1, how will the new product or service be received by the public? Now, this new product or service could make or break your business, or it could, increase the brand, or it could decrease the brand. And then also too, is your business set up to support? Is it set up logistically able to support this new product stream? Have you overstretched yourself? The latest, just a prime example here in the United States, at least, I don't know if this is happening worldwide, but look at this whole Popeye's chicken thing. They've had Popeye's chicken, and trust me, this chicken got great reviews. I mean, the lines were out the door, but logistically, they introduced a new product to the market or to their product stream, and they were doing fine with the products that they had, and then they added this new product, and the product was well received, but then they couldn't even sustain keeping it there. Now they're saying that they have to delay. They kind of shut it down. The workers were overworked. You're hearing all of these stories about, logistically or internally, I guess, them being overwhelmed. And I'm not trying to say that it didn't work out for them, because they've gotten a lot of great press from this. And I'm pretty sure they sold a lot of the sandwiches, and they've gotten great reviews from it. But you weren't able to sustain it because now you've had to cancel and pull it off the menu for a couple of months until you can get your supply chain back running. So we don't know how that has affected the consumers. So sometimes when you introduce a new product to your line, or even a new service, it's first and foremost, by you introducing this product or service, how is your other businesses going to maintain? Are you going to be able to maintain those other products or services in addition to adding this? Do you have the resources to do so? Number 9, you decide to offer local delivery service to your business model. And again, that's similar to number 8. Number 8, we was talking about products. Number 9, we're just talking about delivery service. Do you have this set up within your business process? When you add this delivery service, are you farming it out through a third party contractor that's going to do your deliveries for you? If so, now you're dependent on this third party to maintain your consumer experience. Are they going to deliver on time? Are they going to not tamper with the customer's items, products? Then also, too, you have to look at it from the business end. Are we able to handle these deliveries? Can we do this? Do we have a process in place to handle these deliveries and, incoming and outgoing, and still maintain our same consumer experience that we had before, or increase that consumer experience? And then finally, your small restaurant business has a policy of cash or checks only. That definitely can impact your business. If you're just taking cash or checks only, or even if you were just taking debit cards only, you said the only thing we're taking here is electronic payments, you're limiting the options for consumers. And so that can definitely impact your consumer experience ratings from customers. So that was our one exercise, and that's going to close out the overview section. We're going to get into the consumer experience scope in the following sections.